the extreme disagreement with the idea that rape jokes.
Okay, hello listeners to another interview hour with your host, myself, John Riepenhoff, and our special guest today, Scully.
Hello.
Scully, can we start out by, can you just introduce yourself a little bit? Anything you want the listening audience to know?
Yeah, I'm Skull Gustafson, and I live in River West, right here where this recording is being taken place, and I'm a multimedia artist.
Very good.
So
I first met Scully a few years ago, and I can't remember if it was either on the set of Moondust, where you were doing amateur art film acting with conviction, or it could have been in your studio when you were still had a studio at Myad as a painter. So
yeah, you're a guest artist visiting critiquer.
Correct. So these are sort of different capacities, actor, painter, and that's kind of indicative of the approach that you have towards painting. Can you talk about a little bit about your paintings, where those are coming from, and then if that leads into anything else about your other art practices?
Just recently, within the past year, I've been painting rooms and taking my paintings off the canvas and... Well, while I was at Myad, I was painting kind of like biomorphic abstraction type stuff where I could get more into the act of painting itself, but having some kind of subject matter to play with. And a lot of it was photo shoots that I did with my lover, collaborator, man, Eric Moore, and we would do photo shoots, and we would kind of do abstract body poses, and he'd photograph them, and then I would paint them, and then I was always into kind of just playing with like the whole room, and in my old apartment when I was still painting that way, I collected this TV off the street. It was an empty big screen TV that was smashed up, and I grabbed that, and I had some... I brought it into my kitchen, and I used it as kind of like a stage set, and I created little puppets, and I would create little plays with them, and started painting on my wall and making up character names for these puppets, and that kind of led me into installation type art. And then I did a residency in New York, and they kind of just really wanted us to just reinvent ourselves. So the studio space that I was given, I just kind of turned it into my bedroom and started painting on the walls and creating these little like sculpture characters and giving them names and stories. And yeah, that's just one thing I'm into right now.
So the photos of you that were made on Skype, those are by Eric of you, and then you repaint them?
That was while I was doing that residency in New York. We just thought of how we could collaborate while I was in New York and he was in Wisconsin.
So there's some shared perspective. I mean, were you interested in that? Was that like a pretty intimate relationship piece in a way? Because
and there was an interesting like distance involved because it was over Skype. Like we were just hanging out talking on Skype, and I was in my installation because that was kind of like where I was living. I had an apartment, but I pretty much just stayed there all the time. And so we did some photo shoots where he would photograph the screen, and I would just pose in it. And it's interesting how like a digital camera and a computer screen creates this like weird distance. And even though they're both like high in technology, it looks kind of faded and pixelated, even though it's kind of opposite.
Is there some like is there some like exhibitionism in that, or in a way, or are you kind of like, do you just get into it with your boyfriend during that, or are you aware that you're making art at the time?
Yeah, we're definitely aware of it. And we printed off a bunch of those, and
Cool.
Yeah, we're always just trying to make it exhibitional.
So, but you mentioned that like through that long distance videoing, that's where like a new genre or this new kind of handling of your personal space or the room, the actual, not just the actual habitat that you're occupying came out of. And where did that like kind of room development, where is that taking you now?
It's kind of just opening me up to anything being art and just having fun with my body and environments and happenings and staging happenings. Like recently I did this show called The Fops Banquet with this old school Milwaukee guy who's kind of just a character and dresses up, and just a lot of people know him, but he's not really an artist. And he wanted someone to paint his room because he wanted to have a banquet party at the Portrait Society Gallery and celebrating like the demolition of the Portrait Society into what the new space it's going to be. So I got to paint the carpet and the walls, and I didn't even plan that. It just happened where I cosmically got connected with this Jack Eichel guy. And so that's one thing. And my friends in LA want me to... I've been making paper-mache bracelets for their new fashion business, and they really want like my painting style on their bracelets. And I thought, like, I'm not really a jeweler, but this sounds pretty interesting. So I've been making a lot of paper-mache painted jewelry lately, and pretty soon it's going to be shipped to LA for their new fashion thing. So I like the possibility to be open with integration. But it's always about finding space to make installations as well, as far as that goes. That's really hard. That's why these bracelets are really good, because it's like I can do it on my kitchen table.
Sure. So it sounds like you're kind of willing to jump into a lot of different like existing venues for these type of things, whether it's the art gallery, like jewelry, like following the form of jewelry. I recently saw you perform music too, and it seemed like there was, on top of following certain rock guitar styles, you also were incorporating theater in a way with costume changes. And I guess I'm wondering if where your art exists, if you think about it that way, or can it? Do you put it in places that aren't really designed for to hold design or kind of art in that way?
I really think of it as theatrical. Like, I'd love to get into stage sets and theater, and ideally kind of make my own plays and stuff where the installations can take on more of like a filmic role and be movies. And I can integrate music and myself and storytelling and like sci-fi almost. But yeah.
Seems like some of the way that you navigate in the city, it seems like you kind of are suggesting a certain like everyday theater in a way, or I mean, because it seems like you kind of go really stylized with different outfits, and even the idea of doing a concert at someone's house, or I don't know, can you talk about how you consider venues in a way, or if you think about that at all, if it's just kind of seamless as part of your lifestyle?
Well, I'm really into dressing up, thanks to Eric and I collaborating and stuff. Like, we always make up different like characters for me and like outfits and just things to make a cool photo shoot off of. And we recently did this performance at Ben Miller's opening of Plumhouse Gallery in the Center Street building, and it was this performance that Eric and I did by chance, where we were just hanging out in our living room, partying one night, and our friend Foster videotaped us, and Eric was dressing me up from nude to just putting like all these different costumes on me, where I had just all these different outfits on, and by the end of it, I turned into like a monster-looking character. He put like these redneck teeth in me, and I went through all these different outfits, but they were all layered on top of each other. And I told Ben that we'd be willing to do that performance at his opening, but he said it had to be condensed to 7 minutes, so we did it like really fast and put Eric's friend's soundtrack to it from one of his albums. And so that was a fun performance to do because the venue was very chill, and it was just a lot of local art people, like all my good friends, and it was just very comfortable vibe to perform in front of people. And I started off nude and went into like kind of a gothic punk rock chick into like this queen, this like elegant princess looking character, into this monster, and that was the end of the performance. It was all in 7 minutes.
Okay, that sounds like a great performance.
It was called Prodigal Fancy.
Wandering the street. So it sounds like you have certain type of like identity that you're building, but it's also kind of heavily reliant on collaboration, whether it's Eric or with other people, and maybe even incorporating other people's art in your work. Like you mentioned this song. What's your what's your take on I guess that like identity of an artist and collaboration and work and authorship in that way?
You can learn a lot from like collaborating with other people because their input might be a lot different than yours, and if it works good, it can like really open up yourself as an individual. Like you can learn a lot of things, and you have to learn how to be meshing with other people, how you can like figure out problems. Like it's almost easier to just do things by yourself. But I like doing that too. I like having my own individual body of work. But every now and then, I like the challenge of different people and collaborating. But at this point, Eric and I are so natural, and we always were just like kind of cosmically natural as collaborators, which is kind of rare. But I'm open to collaborating with new people. It's always a fun challenge.
What's your typical day like?
I wake up, drink coffee, and I always have to have a coffee and a cigarette right when I wake up. And then I usually make like half a bag with eggs, like over easy, and salsa, and tahini if I have it. And then lately I haven't had a job, so I've been working on the jewelry, and while I have my coffee buzz going, and then at night usually I end up hanging out with friends, it seems like, but also trying to find a job, and just different things like that, depending on what I'm doing.
Sounds like the art's keeping you busy.
Yeah, I always have to have that going.
And then it sounds also like the hanging out with friends that is kind of doubled up with these like kind of performances and actually generating
new ideas,
material.
Yeah, that's always important. That I like to have friends that wanna create stuff. Like with Sam Foster, we usually hang out, and he's the type of person I get more drunk than usual with, so we end up recording punk rock music. You just gotta make it work somehow.
When you're making things or performing, what are you looking for to achieve through that?
Just learning something new, probably. Just discovering something I didn't already know. And thinking about how that can go into the future. Like these bracelets that I've been working on, like what if I make enough of them that I start seeing people wearing them that I don't even know, and stuff like that.
Try to have some potential. You talk about being like having a coffee buzz going, and I see like certain kind of energy, certain in your work, in your line making, and it seems like very much like action kind of.
Yeah. I'm a very immediate type of artist. I'm not the type of artist that thinks about like what it's gonna look like in the end, which I totally respect that style too. But I just kind of like the
but it would be just as easy,
the bliss you get off just like painting a brush stroke. Like a lot of times I feel like I could be a total just abstract noisy painter, but I like for there to be some concept in it besides just catharsis. So I usually think about some kind of role that the act of painting will lead to.
For one thing, how would you...
is that the same as your music? The same type of approach?
Yeah. A lot of times I'll get an idea for an album and write songs based off that idea. Or I'll just be in the mood to write songs and I'll just be jamming, freestyling, and then like a cool melody will come out and then I'll just write some lyrics to it. Sometimes that's how it goes. Other times there's like a concept to it. Like my old band, Eccentric Giants, we did a performance 2 years ago called Conceal Reveal, and we needed a soundtrack for it, so we made a purely noise album using cut-up material of our music, and it was probably the most noise-like album I've ever done. A lot of my stuff's more just rock and roll, but this was designed to be a soundtrack.
Do you have any suggestions? Text me with it.
If a lot of your approaches towards these like painting and music and theater is very, I guess, like emotional and direct, do you have methods of refining that and pushing that forward, since it's not really based on existing kind of models or existing systems of refinement?
How to push refinement further?
Or like how to refine your own your own method of art making, because it sounds like it's based on very like
for that, or
kind of an immediate thing. It's not. It doesn't sound like it's based on an existing
formula.
Yeah, that somebody else set up. Like you're setting up your own standards.
So I have a lot of inspiration from different people. So I get a lot of ideas from other people too, but yeah, just I feel like the more I make, the more I'll learn and the more will happen.
So what is that? What is your motivating force?
My motivating thing is,
and I'm just looking for an outlet.
Breeding.
For an outlet.
Just breeding the world with color, and it'd just be great if like it seems like everyone is a character, and artists are the people that realize that they're characters, so they breed and make babies for the world to everyone else's parents to these babies, and critique it and raise it and give it money.
Can you talk about who does inspire you, or what some of your things in artist music?
There's this artist recently that I've been really into named Michael Allen, and he's an artist I met in New York, and I went to 2 of his performances, and he's got this thing going called Living Installation, and he does these like 3-hour to 6-hour performances where he like has several models and he like dumps paint all over them and has music playing that he made, and he collaborates with a lot of people, and he's just kind of a nonsense artist and just and he's been going through a lot lately, a lot of health problems, and things have been getting kind of crazy for him, and his career's taking off. He's been like on Art 21 and all these different things, and it just seems like he's one of those artists that's doing what a lot of people are trying to do, like where he's just like totally chaotic and like dumping gesso on himself and like talking gibberish. So I respect him a lot, but then I respect people like
part of a round table on
de Kooning, and Nick Frank is one of my favorite local artists.
What do you like about de Kooning and Frank?
I feel like de Kooning I can relate to on like a painterly level, like the way he applies his paint, like it's very luscious and charged, and he was like, if anything, when I was painting those biomorphic abstraction paintings, I felt like I related to de Kooning a lot. Like my stuff could, like a lot of people were telling me it looked like de Kooning, and it's kind of cheesy, but I agree. And Nick Frank, I just think is, like, I love how his whole life is an autobiography, and his stuff is just very challenging to the eye, and
which publishes a lot of my favorite books.
And fun. And he's just a really great guy too. Having him as a professor.
Who was my guest?
He's kind of in the fourth dimension, but also in the third dimension at the same time.
Cool. Anybody else that kind of helps influence or drive your work at all?
As far as mainstream goes, like Cindy Sherman is a big influence, and
they're kind of
like Kenneth Anger, his film work, and a lot of like that New York no wave music, like DNA and Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, and people like that were just like redefining the scene, like Iggy Pop was one of my favorites, but he's very poppy at the same time. And a lot of people. I'm just inspired by a lot of people. I love art that's very simple too, like what's her name? Elizabeth Patton, her portraits of rock stars and stuff. Like, I just love her compositional simplicity and color choices. Sometimes I do portraits, and I feel a resemblance to her style as well. There's a lot of people, like Andy Warhol, and how he had the whole factory thing, and he kind of turned all these people into rock stars, like the Velvet Underground. And he challenged the world because he was so famous, and his work was just kind of like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, he just did all those soup cans, like, but there's way more to it. A lot more.
This transparency at once a local pride and a fulcrum of alert.
Who do you decide to do portraits of?
I did a portrait of Nina Blasnik, my ex-girlfriend, and that one turned out really good. And one of my good friend Jara from Wasa, and a couple of my cat Sid. And I'd love to do more portraits, but
so there are people who in your life close to you?
Yeah. And I did one of Eric too.
So if any of the radio...
That's kind of a slow down pace to do portraits. It's like very meditative on people's faces, and which is nice. It's very refreshing, but I just always have something else to do before that, it seems like. But I'd love to make a bunch of stretchers soon and do a series of portraits.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Your portraits were great at Portrait Society.
Oh, thank you.
A while ago.
So if any of our radio listeners wonder how to get a portrait made by you, they have to just become very close with you.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I always feel more comfortable painting people that are comfortable with me.
What's your ideal community like?
I think in Milwaukee, River West is a very good spot. Like, you walk down the street and you see a lot of people you know, and like there's an art scene going on, and a lot of good music shows, like at Quarters and Circle A, and you see friends all the time, and people are helping each other out and doing things kind of DIY, like in their living rooms. They have galleries. That's kind of ideal. But it's cool in New York how you have like different options. Like, you can go to Chelsea and see like a Yoko Ono show, like a humongously famous artist show, and then walk across the street and see like a Genesis P-Org show, and just all these different huge shows like within that little area. And then you can go to Bushwick, and it's like kind of how it is in River West, where people are doing things in like cheap spaces, which I love that vibe a lot. But it's kind of cool to have variety. But I like family and community and people not being pretentious and just just helping out the community and making things fun and comfortable.
Do you know why you kind of fell into this type of lifestyle where you're kind of creating your own identity, like from, I guess, who you were growing up to now?
Well, in high school, like junior year, I started going by my middle name, Scully. My first name was Jonathan, and changing my name a little bit like helped in a way. I mean, for me at least. And just going and kind of just creating a different persona, or playing with like who I can be, and hanging out with Eric and doing photo shoots. And just it's just the natural evolution. Like Scully, I've been called Scully my whole life too by different people, so that's not really a new name or anything, but that kind of made me think like only a certain amount of people call me Scully, and other people, all my family and friends from my hometown, called me Jonathan, and so just that kind of inspired that, like, and then hanging out with Eric and doing a lot of photo shoots, like certain characters would pop up again, like we'd use the same costume again, and like I ended up getting this other alter ego named Desdemona. It's my like female side. So that just inspired that. And I never really planned it. I just like would dress up like that, and I started going by Desdemona when I turned into a woman.
So you did performance before you started painting?
Not really.
You did dress up, or what?
The painting started in high school, and I took some sculpture classes and got real buddy with my sculpture teacher, and he let me make stretchers and take them home, and I just painted at home a lot on my own and made sculptures at school, and so I just I learned how to paint in high school. I never thought I'd be into it. I was into music first. Like, I started playing guitar when I was 10, so I always like thought I was gonna not go to college and like be a rock star. But turned out I got recommended to go to art school, and I did that, and I've met a lot of great people that way, and had a lot of freedom to explore new territories. And I felt like at art school there was nothing to lose. I could just kind of do whatever I want.
If you couldn't be painting or playing music or doing like photo shoot or performance, theater stuff, or be making miniature worlds inside of broken TVs, what would you be doing?
I'd love to be in a band and tour, for sure. Well, you kind of said that, but I'd love to be an actor too.
Oh yeah.
Like, it'd be fun to move to LA and see if like some movie director would just like want to make me a actor star. I don't know, there's a lot of things. It's got to be music or art, because art's as broad as you can imagine. I don't want to be a restaurant worker my whole life or anything.
Do you have anything coming up that you can promote?
Let's see. This LA thing's gonna be cool because they're gonna fly me to LA in August, and it's through my friends Tennessee, Hamilton, and Ryan Wanta. They're starting this fashion business, and I don't know where the space is gonna be yet, so I can't really promote it. But
what's it called?
The business is just gonna be called Tennessee, I think. And yeah, I'm gonna
Tennessee in LA.
Yeah. And in Milwaukee, there's the Fops Banquet Gallery Night show. Like the other one was just like the opening rehearsal dinner party. And so July 27th at Portrait Society Gallery, we're going to do it again. That's one thing.
July 27th at the Portrait Society.
Yep. And then also recently, my friend's friend needed a model. He does like Halloweenish stuff, like haunted house makeup. He does a really good job at making you look like a zombie or a monster. So he needed a model. My friend's like, oh, I'm sure Scully would do it. So I did it, and he put latex all over my face and made me kind of look like this creepy old man mixed with like a innocent little child girl. And he took photos of me, and he's going to have those displayed at Alexis Albert's new gallery, which is another living room thing. Called Under Spaces, and that is on August 8th, and I'm going to be dressed up as that character that he turned me into. So, and I'll be just walking around the gallery.
What's the name of this space? August 8th?
August 8th, it's called Under Spaces.
Under Spaces.
Yeah, and it's the first show of her new, like, gallery, but it's just her living room. And he's going to have photos of me as this character named Roy, this, like, lonely old person that's kind of just spaced out and weird and depressed. And also silly and funny and mundane. And I'm going to be dressed up as him at the show.
That's
another thing.
That sounds amazing. Is there going to be anything else come up at Plum House, or is there remnants of that performance?
Ben Miller wants that place to be a kind of a more performance art gallery. So I think, yeah, that was his first show, and then he wants to start having more shows performance-based. So I think I'm a candidate. He'll be keeping in touch, but no plans for that. I think that's kind of it for shows planned right now.
That sounds great.
Awesome.
Is there anything else that that we didn't touch on that you think might be entertaining for our listeners?
After the big cedar fell and destroyed the fence, or possibly when we mutinied,
No.
refused to follow Alexander farther into
there's
the
probably lots of
continent,
things.
just wanting to go back to whatever inevitably temporary.
It's really hot out tonight, but it feels good.
All of these, it seems like you're really into. I mean, there's a lot of personalities. Do you just is that a way of storytelling for you, or of like kind of identifying certain like moods or parts of your personality that you can kind of like embellish in different ways?
Yeah, it gives me a reason to make kind of this crazy nonsense stuff that I make that a lot of times I struggle to define. Like, I'll just kind of make all this stuff and like question if it has like interestingness to it. And so by like making characters and stuff and different scenes, and I'm kind of documenting these cultures that are happening without knowing where they'll lead to, because I'm like an anthropologist, or where I study cultures, and I find different characters that I'm just kind of meeting for the first time, and it's like an ongoing storytelling journal.
So does that empower you to like kind of define your own personality with a more broader spectrum of terms?
Yeah, it opens me up to who I am as a person, experimenting with who I can channel and be. And Eric and I have been working on this comic book too, which is like a photo shoot comic book. So I'm Captain Primary, and I'm also Dr. Blackout, and the comic's going to be called Dr. Blackout. And so we've been thinking of different comic book characters, and like there's this other model, David Mueller. He's Watermelon Kid, so we cut out watermelon and put it over his head with a knife in his head. And he's now in the comic book, and the story is being written as the photo shoots are being taken, and Eric's photoshopping it all together. So
ready for the consequences of a moth.
It's just playing around with roles.
Can you give us a little hint on what that story is like, or?
Yeah, Dr. Blackout's this evil guy who wants to take over the world by turning it black and white, which he does from the beginning, and everyone's freaking out, like, there's no color. And then Captain Primary gets a call from Cartoon Pussy, who's like the godhead cat, the gold cat, and Cartoon Pussy is like the master, and he calls him, and Captain Primary is down in like Mexico having a cocktail, and Cartoon Pussy is in the United States where everything's black and white, and Captain Primary gets a call from Cartoon Pussy, and Cartoon Pussy's like, Dr. Blackout's turned everything black and white, and it's like madness. Everyone's freaking out, and Captain Primary is like, I'll be there in a second. So he like leaves Mexico, and the scene we just shot with Watermelon Kid is, oh yeah, Cartoon Pussy's working undercover for Dr. Blackout in the Blackout Industry Studios, making these primary pills where they sell them on the streets to people so that they take these pills and they can see color again. So that's how he's making all this money and being evil. And Cartoon Pussy gets caught working undercover, so he gets sent to jail, and that's where he meets Watermelon Kid with the knife in his head. And they break out of jail, and then Watermelon Kid trips over a rock while the cops are chasing him and smashes his head, and the watermelon guts just splooge out. But Cartoon Pussy escapes, and so we're trying to figure out like what comes next, and like how Captain Primary like defeats Dr. Blackout, or if it's going to be an ongoing comic book.
It sounds pretty political.
Yeah.
You're totally
Yeah,
in the
you can
clear
see that.
and can once again endure the budding
So that's been
of
fun.
trees.
And Watermelon Kid was born through that.
The cross-eyed
So-
allure of prison guards.
So it's kind of like illustration where you make up characters, and but it's fun doing it in a photographic way. Live human.
It sounds like there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. It's opening up doors.
Every bit of Brooklyn bent double.
Well, I mentioned it sounded political. It sounds very formal in another way.
Yeah.
Lightning strikes
It's very like
in the dry
cookie cutter comic book.
The work just never
I mean,
ends.
maybe not cookie
First,
cutter,
there's
but
the obvious problem with the rub, then all these
comic
papers
book.
close to toppling, and the gentle turning of the mind.
That sounds great. So
away from
that, when
thoughts
is that going to be a printed
And then,
publication, or is that going to be
Yeah.
online? Any plans for how that's going to be released?
I think it's going to be 3 pieces of paper, 4 pages per paper, so it's going to be 12 pages altogether. Just short and simple, and then distributed around Milwaukee, maybe bring some to Woodland Patterns. But it's all up to Eric on, well, not all up to Eric, but he says it takes a lot of time to do the Photoshop stuff. So, and it's just a natural evolution with thinking of new scenes. So we've been working on it for 3 months now, and we only have like 4 or 5 pages. So hopefully it'll be done like within a year, because I'm really excited about that. That could be an awesome comic book.
Yeah, that sounds great. Are there any sources on the internet that people, if they want to learn more about any of your projects, that they can check out?
There's Scully Gustafson at ScullyGustafson.blogspot.com.
Do you want to spell that out?
Yeah, SkullyGustafson.blogspot.com. And then there's my Bandcamp, which is scully.bandcamp.com. And that's my music. And you can download a lot of my albums for free.
Oh, I wish we had some of those ready to
roll. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
From Spring and All, which is a long poem William Carlos Williams wrote, I think in like 1932. I think that's when it was published anyway.
You can just plug that in, maybe.
And it's just amazingly important.
do you remember the first character that you invented?
Poets since then have periodically forgotten and remembered.
Well, one of my favorite early characters was this guy named Theodore, who comes from a different planet, and I found him at Myed, and he's a little plaster bust guy, and he's just lost here on Earth, trying to find
poetry has to do with the
like meaning in what Earth is, and so he's on this long mission to find his true love Nancy, who he communicates with, but he hasn't found her physical body. And he was part of that first installation, the telly.
Of all sorts, fictional and other poetry, new form.
Primary? This one?
Yeah. The form of prose is the accuracy of its subject matter.
So he's just looking for his true love.
The multi-form phases of its material. The form of poetry is related to the movements of imagination revealed in words.
Here we go. We're going to attempt to listen to some Scully's music right here for these very special moment for these listeners.
Track cassette recorder, and it's all me, like piano, drums, guitar, singing, and the album's called Primary, and this was when I was getting really into primary colors for the first time, and all the songs are primordial ideas about, this song's called Me and You, which is just a simple primary concept about being in love, and could write our own song. Yeah, it's a lot of love songs, and everyone in love would sing along.
Cool, I think we'll finish the hour out listening to this album. Thanks for coming out tonight, and
thank you, John.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, pleasure. Fun.
Tune in 2 weeks for another episode of Interview Hour on River West Radio.
Cheers.
Interested me. Among artists, or as they are sometimes called, men of imagination, creators, etc., this force is recognized in a pure state. All this can be feeling between
she had interstellar technology. She had the wire to my mind. blasted out of Broadway.
So this song is called Not, and there's two different freestyles going on.
I took it to
Two different vocal tracks, and I just felt like recording a song, so I just improvised both of the lyrics. So this song is open to interpretation. There's two different vocal tracks singing about different things, so that's why I titled the song Not, because they're kind of like trying to untangle themselves.
never felt so numb since I was so fancy. I had my pants in the lane. Beaver banana took the man to the clean.
And this next song, I think, Cat Opera,
Passed some time ago.
is about my love for cats.
One must never go to the country. If you are in the country,
That might be a good spot to end it.
then I cannot live here. And everything that is
Ain't gonna hold me down. Free like a monkey.
That's terrible. All right, see you later.
Shadows gone, artificial.